Ahead of the deadline for the completion of rehabilitation work, Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport runway is ready for flight operations.
Commercial boat mishap, 8 persons, including women and children, reported dead in Kebbi State.
Inspector General of Police orders dismantling of all roadblocks in Nigeria.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we will be focusing on quality of locally manufactured drugs.
Now let's start by recalling an incident that happened in November 2008 in which 34 Nigerian children aged between 4 months and 3 years died, and more than 50 others were hospitalized with severe kidney damage.
Yes, Rhoda, when we talk about that, the children died not as a result of any child killer diseases, but because they were administered what was referred to as My Pikin, a artificial mixture that was produced below standard.
Indeed, that tutin mixture cost a lot of deaths in Nigeria, and a couple of years ago, 3 Nigerian hospitals reported cases reactions from the use of contaminated infusion produced by 4 Nigerian companies.
And when we talk about this, these are few of many instances of adverse effects of fake and substandard drugs manufactured in the country, Rhoda.
Well, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, drug counterfeiting is the most common in nations without strong regulations governing and manufacturing of pharmaceutical products.
Well, when we talk about a whole lot, the agency estimates that 10 to 30% of medicines sold in developing countries, including Nigeria, are counterfeit.
And as a way of ensuring quality of manufactured drugs in Nigeria, the federal government inaugurated a committee on expedited medicines access program.
And according to the Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, the present administration is committed to partner with local pharmaceutical manufacturing companies to ensure access to quality medicines by the Nigerian populace at affordable cost.
But the question is, why are the local pharmaceutical companies producing substandard drugs for the Nigerian populace? Why should the manufacturers cut corners in the name of making profit at the expense of people's lives? These are some of the questions we intend to pose to our guests this morning. This is Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live on Africa's largest TV network, the NTA. I'm Rhoda Ogban. Of course, it's always good to be here.
Thousands and millions of questions to ask when it comes to counterfeit drugs, substandard drugs that have claimed the lives of a whole lot of Nigerians. Well, these are issues that will dominate our time on Good Morning Nigeria. Also on the program, newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, entertainment news, and even the outlook for the rest of the day. I am Cliff Ayoze. For now, we'll join Anne Jibono for the day's news. And good morning. What is the latest?
Rhoda and Cliff, good morning and welcome to the news. Ahead of the April 18th deadline to complete the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport runway rehabilitation, aviation correspondent Emmanuel Ayimero reports that the runway is ready for aircraft to land and take off.
And we have confirmed that the job has been done quite satisfactorily, in line with the international standards, the ICAO standard of standard and recommended practices. The normal thing is to inform the aviation world through what we call notice to airmen, NOTAM, and that has been done. And all aviators now know the official opening date and the time for this airport.
Any moment from now, if there's any aircraft, we are ready to receive aircraft. But of course, in aviation, there are procedures a NOTAM has to be issued. Physically and technically speaking, the runway is ready. There is nothing on the runway you can.
8 persons, including women and children, have been reported dead in a commercial boat mishap said to be conveying passengers from a weekly market in Malele to Wara in Kebbi State. Abdullahi Ibrahim reports that the incident occurred at Tudun-Dorina, Malele community of Borgu local government area of Niger State.
We were having a smooth journey before the boat hit a tree and capsized.
We need the intervention of the federal government, available of life jacket.
Most is that it's very, very difficult for them to trace those trees because the water is used to go off and come down.
Troops of 3 Battalion 22 Brigade of the Nigerian Army on Operation Lafia Dole, assisted by 10 civilian JTF based on information received, embarked on an offensive on suspected location of Boko Haram terrorists at Jarawa General Area, Kala Balge local government area of Borno State. Director Army Public Relations Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman in a statement said while advancing, the troops came under heavy fire at Jarawa village and responded decisively, clearing terrorists from Deima, Artano, Saduguma, Duve, Bardo, Kala, Bok, Meshdede and Ahirde settlement. During the operation, the troops neutralized 21 Boko Haram terrorists, rescued more than 1,600 residents of Jarawa who were held captive by the terrorists. They also recovered 3 AK-47 rifles, 36 hand grenades, 12 cutlasses, and 4 motorcycles. The rescued persons have been escorted to Ran internally displaced persons camp, while all the children were vaccinated. Deploying its experience in battle, resilience, and bravery, the unit did not record any casualty. In another development, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has ordered the dismantling of all illegal roadblocks under the guise of revenue collection for trade unions or taxation enforcement. The IGP's order takes immediate effect. The Buhari Media Support Group says the Buhari administration has successfully plugged all leakages in the economy and that the country is at the threshold of an economic policy that will benefit citizens irrespective of social or political class. In a statement, the group's secretary, Cassidy Madueke, stressed that while the present administration inherited a country on the verge of collapse, the All Progressives Congress administration has been able to steer the nation away from a fatal fall to a condition of sure footing. The group describes the statement by the National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Prince Dayo Adeyeye, which claims that the PDP handed over a healthy nation as a ridiculous sham. The Buhari Media Support Group notes that but for the military campaign launched by President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, Nigeria under the past administration had lurched towards a failed state, competing side by side with terrorists for territorial claims. The Borno State government and relevant government agencies have continued to strategize and synergize for the welfare of internally displaced persons. Maimuna Garba reports that efforts are being made to ensure safe returns and internally displaced persons from Cameroon. Well, that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Rhoda and Cliff after this break.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, Only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Zoo in the eastern part of Nigeria.
This was not.
There were not much animals in the zoo.
Some of the cages was lapidated.
There are a lot of changes here in the zoo. This place is now filled up with animals
like the lion, the ostriches, the hyenas, even the very big python.
All those lapidated cages are now rebuilding.
I feel excited seeing things that I have not seen before.
And once you see them, you feel happy. You want to come and see more.
This is a rescue mission project. Tourism in Imo. The Imo Rescue Mission. Imo must be.
NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Nigerian Television Authority, specializes in creating comfort in all areas of life, such as real estate investments, that is, land, houses, and office spaces, mass leasing, savings and loan scheme, household items and car loans, and so much more. Other information and entertainment services include Property in Style, a TV program that airs on the network service of the NTA, and also Property Connect, a nationwide magazine. Our priority is to bridge poverty gaps and sustain quality welfare of our clients. Partner with us and watch us help you grow. Pay us a visit today at the NTA headquarters permanent site, Area 11 Garki, Abuja, or our Lagos office at number 15 Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos. For more information, visit our website on www.ntaproperties.com.ng, or you can email us on ntap2000@yahoo.com. Call us on 080-2316-3474 or 080-6939-5185 or 070-3189-0555. NTA Properties Investment Company Limited, the much needed help at your doorstep.
This is Good Morning Nigeria, where focus will center on locally or quality of locally manufactured drugs. But before then, we go to business, where Nigerian Customs Service has generated 1.5 billion naira seized items in Lagos and Ogun states. Stay with us for business with Joy Ozo.
An indigenous businessman and economic analyst, Pat Orama, has acknowledged the efforts of governments at all levels aimed at restoring growth to the nation's economy. Orama says he observed the gradual improvement in the purchasing power of consumers as reflected during the Easter shopping. He noted that the recent intervention in the forex market and growth indices experienced in different sectors of the economy is rubbing off on the economy.
This Easter, compared to the Christmas, I believe that the purchasing power of Nigerians would have been much better, given that the economy is looking up from all the foreign exchange. Now the government is even encouraging the SMEs as well, MSMEs with forex, provision of forex. So all facets of the economy are being geared up.
Orama, however, called for a speedy passage and efficient implementation of the 2017 budget to enhance the sustenance of positive changes in the economy. The Nigerian Customs Service Federal Operations Unit, Zone A, Ikeja, says it has generated about 1.5 billion naira from goods allegedly being smuggled into the country. It said the money was realized from seized goods in the first quarter of 2017. The service added that the feat was achieved through intensified anti-smuggling operations carried out in Lagos and Ogun states. The Comptroller, Federal Operations Unit A, Comptroller Aruna Mamudu, said this through the command's Public Relations Officer, Jerry Atahiru.
Similarly, in a bid to improve Nigeria's ranking in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business for 2018, the federal government, through the Presidential Enabling Business Council, PEBEC, has approved the reduction of documentation procedure of imports and exports in Nigerian ports. Consequently, the Deputy Controller of Customs, Anthony Anyalogu, announced that documentation of imports have been reduced from 14 to 8 stages, while documentation for exports reduced from 10 to 7. Latest report from the Central Bank of Nigeria has shown that total loans provided by microfinance banks across the country to micro, small and medium enterprises during the second half of 2016 amounted to 183.96 billion naira. The figures contained in the latest financial stability report of the Apex Bank revealed that loans declined by 48.7 billion naira, that is about 20.96% from the 232.73 billion naira advanced to the microfinance banks in June 2016, 183.96 at the end of December 2016. The figures obtained from the website of the Apex Bank indicate that the sector recorded huge decline during the period. The report, for instance, said that total assets of microfinance banks decreased to 341.68 billion naira at the end of December 2016 from 455.96 billion naira as of the end of June 2016, reflecting a decrease of 25.06%. In the same vein, the report said shareholders' funds for the microfinance banking sector decreased by 42.91% from 135.09 billion naira to 77.12 billion naira as at the end of December 2016. The decrease in shareholders' funds was largely attributed to losses by the microfinance banks resulting from increase in non-performing loans. The report further stated that total deposit liabilities dropped from 191.25 billion naira as at June 2016 to 166.29 billion naira as at December 31, 2016. And that's it on this segment of the program. Thanks for watching.
All right, thank you very much, Joy Uzo, there on the business news segment. Time now to take a look at stories making the rounds on most of Nigerian dailies across the country this morning. Newspaper review is up next.
Talking about what the newspapers have on the headlines today, we have our regular reviewer, Bayo Atoyobi. Bayo, it's our pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Cliff. Good morning, Rhoda. Good morning there. Shake up the lethargy. Easter is over. Get back to work. They should join us in walking.
Yeah. So, talking about the papers, Rhoda, I think let's take off with the Authority today, because on the Authority we have on the front page of the Authority, FG set to reopen Abuja Airport tomorrow. Runway ready for use, NCAA and FAN. APs to resume Abuja flights. On the front page of the Authority, and on top of the nameplate, we have government plans to set up Science and Technology Bank. Data, and with details on page 31 of the Authority. And we also have Pencon DG's sack, not in line with Pension Reform Act. Workers, with details on page 37. And also on top of the nameplate, we have the Authority editor bags PAD at 40. Well, that's good news for them. But coming down at the bottom of the Authority this morning, we have Obiano to present Anambra Icons, listing over 1,500 billionaires. Well, that's something very encouraging. Rhoda.
All right, so let's quickly move over now to the New Telegraph. On the New Telegraph, just above the nameplates, cashless, Nigerians transfer 10 trillion naira in 2 months. Cashless, Nigerians transfer 10 trillion naira in 2 months. And just below that, Field theft. Senate calls for major shakeup in NNPC. That's a story that's on page 4 of the New Telegraph. Now below the nameplate, troops kill 21 Boko Haram suspects, rescue 1,623 in Borno. That's a story that's trending on page 36 of the New Telegraph. Also, just beside that, AFDB, Dangote will become world's largest rice exporter. Fact consultants recover 561 million naira trapped in commercial banks, and 8 die, 24 injured in Lagos Ogun crash. Those are stories just below the nameplate. And the big story on the New Telegraph this morning, NSA probes 15 billion naira recovery with riders. Buhari awaits AGF's recommendations. How NIA used government official's wife to buy Ikoyi apartment. Recovered money above what agency can keep, says Sage. That's SAN Sage. And then Amechi demands 750 million, 500 million naira from Fayose, and that's Fayose and Femi, former aviation minister Femi Fani Kayode, of course, if they don't retract their statements. And of course, the picture story on the New Telegraph this morning: who owns these money? Who owns these money? And those are the money they have been recovered so far through the whistleblower policy. Now, below the picture story, Malibu probe reps backpedals on Jonathan's invitation. And that's an interesting one here. Water bottles increase risk of germs. That's a story that's on page 10 of the New Telegraph. All right, Bayo, let's get your views on this story.
Officially, the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport is scheduled to open on Wednesday. Already, some papers are reporting that Ethiopia Airlines, the international airline that first landed at Kaduna, has confidence in Nigerian airports and is likely to land in Abuja today. The airport is officially opening on 19th. Already, the Federal Airports Authority and the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority have all certified what is called the fiberglass runway, new and brand new, fit for operation. And that information had been sent into international circuit for all airports around the world. Meanwhile, 1,623 persons have been rescued by the vigilance of the 22 Brigade of Nigerian Army. This was sequel to information they got from the civilian JTF. In the process, those rescued, the adults have been sent to an internally displaced person camp at Ran, while the children among them have been vaccinated. The Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Sandi Kusheka, says that the Nigerian soldiers were so vigilant and they didn't lose any casualty. 21 Boko Haram suspects were neutralized and arms were also seized. Talking about the Ikoyi Fund, some have referred to it as Ikoyi Gate. Some papers are reporting that the Attorney General of the Federation is inquiring, and the Attorney General of the Federation has denied that. He says, the Attorney General says it is not true that he is investigating the circumstance of the cash found at Ikoyi premises. And his argument is not far-fetched. He says that the two agencies that are involved, the EFCC and the Nigerian National Intelligence Agency, are all answerable to the president directly, and therefore there is nothing like inquiry about it. However, there has been support about the war against corruption from a least expected source, a former governor of Kano State, Malam Ibrahim Shekarau, who was Minister of Education in the last administration, says Nigerians should support the fight against corruption. Malam Shekarau, who was speaking in Sokoto, lamented that EFCC lost most of its cases because it was hasty in prosecuting. He says, if you rush a thing, it will ultimately crash. EFCC was in a hurry to prosecute cases without conducting proper investigation. He says that Nigerians should support the fight against corruption. However, he cautioned that they should, such investigation should be fair and just.
Well, Bayo, in a lot of stories trending there, and we're talking about the airport reopening, government giving a deadline and meeting that deadline. That's very good news, you know.
Well, it's a challenge for those who constructed it. The Minister of Aviation, who is also an aviation expert, had put his reputation online, and he said if it failed by 19th of April, he would turn in his resignation. So, and they completed it 2 days before the deadline, and now formalities ongoing now are to make sure that the terminal building is also wearing a new look. And in fact, they are now installing lifts to replace the staircase that people normally had to follow in the process of going to board plane.
Okay,
so
let's make progress now to leadership, where we have on the front page, we'll still have a story on Dangote. Dangote will be largest exporter of rice in 5 years, says African Development Bank, with details of that report on page 5. And moving on, we say Zamfara officials in trouble over missing meningitis vaccine. Details of it on page 4 of the leadership this morning. And we also have on the front page, investors shift to low price stocks on higher yield. With details on page 29 on the front page of the leadership this morning. But the dominant story on the headline is Dogara raises the alarm over plot to manipulate 2018 census. Once headcount suspended till after 2019 polls, and also 2018 census still visible, says NPC, that's the National Population Commission. And also Speaker's statement undemocratic, says Afenifere. Moving on, with details of that report on page 5 of the leadership, we have on the right side of the leadership this morning, government didn't kill my husband, wife of ex-president Jonathan's CSO. That's on the lead there. I'm sure, Rhoda, you still have.
Of course, we have the last one we have is the Daily Trust. And on the Daily Trust this morning, just below the nameplate, you see there, AGF, I am not investigating 15 billion naira recovered fund. Well, it's good to know that he's come out to clarify that because that was a story that was trending, that the president has asked him to go ahead and investigate. All right, and flights resume today as NCAA certifies Abuja Airport. That's on page 13. And the lead story on Daily Trust, states fail to access 46 billion naira UBEC funds. States fail to access 46 billion naira UBEC fund. And below the picture story, that's at the foot of the paper, troops kill 21 Boko Haram fighters. National Assembly can't be rid of corruption easily, says Dr. Yerima. And finally, Dogara 6 census postponements to 2019. All right, let's begin with Dogara's statement there. That's a story that has been trending since yesterday.
Yeah, the Dogara story, I'm afraid, has been a misrepresentation. Okay. He gave an advice and said that conducting census in 2018, a year before general election, will put a lot of pressure on the National Population Commission that is to conduct it and could be subject to manipulation. So he advised that it be put forward to 2019 when there is a new administration. When the new administration comes in during the first time, they can now organize census. But the National Population Commission that is saddled with census is already 1 year behind its time. Census is conducted once every 10 years. We ought to have conducted in 2016. So conducting it even in 2018 is 2 years behind time. And they ought to have planned for the census by making provision in advance in 2017 budget and 2018 budget. So advising that it be moved to 2019 is going to be another Herculean task.
And maybe after that, they will say government has not settled, let's move it to 2020.
Yes. However, this is interesting that citizens in a community, Isheri and Idumu community, woke up to find a notice posted on their streets. And the notice was saying that, take notice, the big brothers are coming. It's not the gentleman who won the big brother in South Africa, who is being expected excitedly in Warri and Jos. No, these are robbers who are giving notice to people in that area that they are coming. The police are on the alert in Lagos, and they are up and doing to forestall that. Also in Aba, where police vigilance killed 2 robbers. Yesterday in the evening, robbers, daredevil, in broad daylight, 5:30 in the evening, also captured an individual and kidnapped him and took him away, shooting sporadically into the air. So these are the challenges of the time.
On the rise again in the east.
Audacity of criminality.
Well, when you talk about this, you know, but the Inspector General of Police has just issued a directive that they should remove all the roadblocks, you know, illegal roadblocks, so to say.
All the roadblocks, legal or illegal, all the roadblocks.
Even those mounted by the police?
All the roadblocks, he said.
So what do you have to say there?
Well, there's a danger here. The concern is that some of the roadblocks have become an obstacle and extorting money, and that is the
definitely.
concern of the police. However, roadblocks normally do serve a purpose because the presence of security agents on the highway is in itself a deterrent to criminality.
Yeah.
So we may have to sift the grain from the shaft, the illegal roadblocks from the legitimate ones who will help daredevil robbers who will come in broad daylight and
But
shoot
there is a point in what the Inspector General of Police is saying, because you need to be roving, not to be predicted. You mount a roadblock there, they will find a way around it. But if you are mobile, you know, continue to move from one point to the other without being predicted, you can locate the police here. You know, that's exactly the point being made here.
All right, Bayo, that's the much we can take this morning on Good Morning Nigeria. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
And of course, hope you join us again tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yes.
Time now for us to take a break. We're looking at the quality of locally manufactured drugs in Nigeria. And we'll be back after this break.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. When I stand, change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. So let the change begin from within. Look at you, yeah, change begins with you and me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me. Change begins with me.
We appreciate the gesture, we appreciate her love, and we know that she cares about the people of Nigeria.
She wants to touch people's life, especially the less privileged, or even people who are sick in the hospital. We remember that they have a wife of the president who is very concerned about human life and humanity in general.
Cadbury Bournvita now comes in an attractive new 500-gram refill pack. Simply open and reseal after use to retain the chocolatey and creamy taste. Cadbury Bournvita. Prepare to win.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're live on Africa's largest TV network, the NTA, and manufactured drugs in Nigeria. While reports say that Nigeria has about 120 local drug manufacturers, about 60% of the pharmaceutical production in ECOWAS country is also located in Nigeria. But over the years, the quality of drugs being produced is a source of concern to the public. Omotola Omojole has put together this background report that will herald our discussion this morning. All right, let's take a listen to that report. That's what sets the foundation for our discussion this morning.
The wealth of a nation can be measured by its human resource and their well-being paramount to development. Nigeria has come from a state of total dependency on foreign pharmaceuticals to producing adequate drugs that are effective, affordable, safe and of good quality, which serve the populace according to the national drug policy. As much as technology and human ingenious abilities have helped in the production of drugs, There have, however, been occurrences and, of course, citizens to second-guess the quality of drugs produced for local consumption in the last 2 decades, the effect of which has created undesired consequences in health complications, poisoning, treatment failure, and death at the far end. Notable is the adulterated teething drug that caused kidney failure for more than 80 children and ultimately their death. These challenges kept National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, on its toe, and former Director General of the agency, late Dora Akunyili, was a champion of the cause, busting fake drug cartels, and it led ultimately to the creation of the Pharmacovigilance Unit of the agency. But with the passing of time, the vigilance appeared to be at the low ebb. Have gone back to business. Experts have been advocating proper regulations and submit that ban of importation of drugs into the country could have colossal effect on public health, as the state of events show the preponderance of fake and adulterated drugs in circulation. If the baseline study as carried out by NAFDAC in 2002 revealed that 67.95% of drugs in circulation were fake and without NAFDAC approval, and significant improvement noticed within 2 years, indicating 67 to 80% progress against fake drugs, what could be responsible for the relapse the country is currently experiencing? Can it be curtailed? What are the contributing factors? Stay tuned as experts on Good Morning Nigeria answer these questions and more.
Thank you, Omotala, there for that background to our discussion centering on quality of locally manufactured drugs. And joining us in the studio to discuss this very important issue is Ibrahim Ali, Director, Pharmacovigilance of the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration, NAFDAC. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Morning, the moderator. Good morning, viewers.
And we also have joining us for this very discussion in the studio, Dr. Kawu Ahijo Abdulkadri. He is of Spine Center, Gwagwalada. It's indeed a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
And we also have joining us in this discussion this morning, and that's Dr. Albert K. Alkali, is a consultant, pharmacist, quality control and drug production. He's also a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists and also a national chairman, Association of Community Pharmacists of Nigeria. And we also have joining us from Lagos, Ima Agba. He is the MD, CEO, Divine Essentials Formulation. Good morning, and it's a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria. So let's begin with Dr. Kawu. Dr. Kawu, we know that pharmaceutical products are very, very important, of course, sustaining the economy of any nation. In some countries, as a source of foreign exchange, but most importantly, determines the well-being of any nation. You're a doctor. You've had the opportunity of working with local drugs and imported drugs. Let's start by getting to know what your experience has been like working with prescribing both drugs for your patients.
I work in clinical setup, and most time I have to deal with patients there. I have to prescribe drug directly to patients. And I'm a surgeon. I work in a theater, and I have to use a lot of drugs. But in the last 4 or 5 years, where I constantly operate patients, I have over time developed an habit of, to be honest with you, I do not use locally made drug.
Why?
First and foremost, I lost about 2 patients in the last 4 years. I mean, before I make up my mind, I'm not going to use locally made drug again. I had an experience with soxamethonium, a particular drug that we used to put patient to sleep before you intubate the patient. And we intubated, we gave the drug, and the patient's throat just went like that. It didn't relax. So we did a lot of, and I had to do emergency tracheostomy to be able to put, but it was a horrible experience for me. And again, After surgery, when you paralyze your patient, you want to reverse the patient after surgery. We've had the couldn't reverse so I practically decided that I'm not going to use locally made drug again. I mean, on my own part. And I've not had any problems since I've started using that drug.
And what you're saying now is this is within the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
And since then you've been using.
I've been using imported
drugs.
I think let's bring in Dr. Albert Alkali here. Dr. Albert Alkali, you are a consultant pharmacist and quality control and drug production. And you're also a fellow of the West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. And your position also as the national chairman of Community Pharmacies of Nigeria places you in very good position to share your contemporary experience with regards to locally manufactured drugs. Would you want to share this with us?
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to differ a little bit from doctor here, because we still have very sound companies that have gotten WHO qualification for production of drugs, and we have good local manufacturers that are producing good quality pharmaceuticals in this country. I think our major problems are the mostly the imported products, and then lack of the enabling regulatory framework to ensure that people keep to standard within the country. And so government needs to empower all the regulatory agencies in charge of monitoring and ensuring that people comply to standard.
Are you saying they're not empowered? Because they have the law there, they have all the leeway to move.
They need to do more.
Looking at the experience of the time Dora Akunyili was in charge of NAFDAC, the inroad they made.
You can see that since she left, all the subsequent people in charge have not been able to meet up her standard. And these are some of the cries of the association. We have shouted, we have on these issues, and it's still as if nothing is happening. It is unfortunate that regulatory agencies, boards are still not constituted.
If you had to put a percentage to the performance of local drug manufacturers, in terms of is standard and non-standard, or poor standard as the case may be, how would you classify that? 30, 70? Or because he said outrightly that, well, he has no confidence in local drug manufacturers.
Honestly speaking, some of the drugs that he mentioned, most of them are not manufactured in this country. Injectables, we do not have that capacity. So some of them, most of the drugs used in the theater are imported. Injectables. So if we talk of the real products that are manufactured from the right sources, I think I will give them a pass mark.
I think I have a counter opinion to that. For example, let's start with antibiotics we use in Nigeria. Most of the, I mean, a lot of them are imported anyway, marketed by, but produced in India. But we have a local one. For example, if you do an antibiogram of a particular patient comes in with infection, and the patient is sensitive to a particular antibiotics. If you use Nigerian products or you use a foreign product, for example, you use products like say from UK or you use products from Germany or Switzerland, the difference is very clear. Rocephin, especially if you use Rocephin branded from Switzerland for severe infection, compared to some of the local drug, which I'm not going to mention anyway, we have, it's very clear. It's very clear what we're dealing with.
Well, please let me add here. Rocephin
is interesting discussion.
I'd like to say that if we talk of Rocephin, I have a very good experience with Rocephin. I was the rep from rep of Roche that makes Rocephin. I for almost 2 years. Now we do not have any company that produces ceftriaxone in this country. So most of the problems are most of the problems we have are from imported products. Now, if you're going to compare two drugs, you should compare two molecules that are equivalent, you know. So if you pick an imported product and then you blame it on a local manufacturer, I don't think it's right.
All right, Dr. Alkali, let's bring in a local manufacturer, and that's Ima Agba, the MD CEO of Divine Essentials Formulation, who's in Lagos. All right, Dr. Ima Agba, you've been listening to Dr. Kawu and Dr. Alkali. They seem to differ. You are a manufacturer. Let's get your take on this first of all.
Yes, when you talk about, thank you ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about locally manufactured product, I've listened to Dr. Kawu. He has said something about suzametonium. It is not a product that is manufactured in Nigeria. When you talk about products that are manufactured locally, I think I will give Nigerian pharmaceutical manufacturer 80%, not even 70%. We have a regulatory framework that is very stiff. NAFDAC regulates the manufacturing practices of all manufacturers in Nigeria, and you see that if you have a product that is default, you have within 1 hour NAFDAC has contacted the manufacturers. There are different processes that are put in place to ensure that you have a quality product in this country, and it is time we give ourselves some credit. There was a particular time we manufactured ARVs for the treatment of HIV in this country, and we had some reactions from some patients that have used it, or a particular patient that said the product was not good, and there was a reaction all over the country. And this product was tested in Nigeria here, giving the results out, and we see they still responded that they are not satisfied with the result of NAFDAC. WHO got that product through UNAIDS, which is United Nations Programs on AIDS, and they took that product to US FDA lab to analyze, and that product came out successful. And that is when they started believing in what the Nigerian manufacturers can do. We need to give ourselves credit. There's no need belaboring the issue that we have some challenges infrastructurally, and that is why we are not into a lot of parental formulations. But for the other products that we are manufacturing, we are doing quite well. We have stepped up from the game of paracetamol. Nigerian pharmaceutical manufacturers are now manufacturing antihypertensive, anti-diabetic, and anti-malarials and other forms of treatment for non-communicable diseases. And this is where we stand. We need support in all the areas of manufacturing in this country. Dr. Kawu should please check where the product is manufactured from, and then you can know that, yes, you are dealing with a country where you have both competency, professionalism at stake. We produce for our people. We don't produce for any other persons. And we are sure, because of what we are doing, there's a competency. If there's any problem, it gets to either one of us in this country. So we are very, very confident in the product that we produce. There's no double stick. We don't play politics with drugs. Gentlemen, we don't play.
That's to say thank you there. I think you will come in. Let's get the view of the NAFDAC official here, who is a director and has been with that system for quite some time. We know the experience of 2008, which claimed the lives of over 30 Nigerian children with that special drug, that is in my Pekin and what have you. And since then, it appears that regulation in terms of looking at the standards, ensuring that the standards are kept, has dropped after Akunyili. That appears to be a popular opinion. What do you think? What is the situation?
Essentially, from the regulatory point of view, the regulation has never dropped. Usually, in a regulatory system, it's dynamic, and as issues come, you strengthen your system to make sure you'll be able to respond properly. Like the issue with paracetamol formulations like my Pekin Titin mixture, you know, those of us that are current, it happened in the early 90s. We strengthened our system. Then in 2008, it happened again. What is important in the regulatory system is that you should have a system to detect when things go wrong and respond properly.
Is it after casualties? After casualty,
yeah. It's gonna happen.
No. You have a system to make sure that it doesn't happen at all.
But it did in
90. But sometimes this system cut across board. Manufacturers and manufacturers are supposed to have a system, and this system works perfectly well. However, there are certain manufacturers that doesn't have a perfect system to detect this thing. For instance, like the one that happened with my Titin mixture, it's because of the way the active ingredients or the solvent you use to dissolve the paracetamol was purchased, and it happened, but it was reported, and it was handled, and necessary sanctions were taken to serve as deterrent. Right from that time, you know, we've taken a regulatory system that ingredient that caused that has been put under strict control. in such a way that it will not occur again.
What's
Now,
the general picture of
the general
standard
picture,
of drugs?
the general picture of standard of drug manufacturing in Nigeria, to the best of our knowledge and the study we've conducted so far, is that genuine Nigerian manufacturers manufacture quality medicines. And I can say this one confidently from the surveys we've done so far. In 2014, 2013, when the issue of UN Commission on Medicine for Saving the Life of Women and Children came on board, WHO conducted a quality survey with Nigeria, and samples were taken from about 10 countries, including Nigeria. And I can tell you that the quality of medicines, especially zinc sulfate dispersible tablets taken from Nigeria, meet all standard requirements and it passed satisfactorily. Secondly, when the issue of production of clohexidine for umbilical cord came on board, in the whole world, the Nigerian pharmaceutical manufacturer was the first in Africa to produce clohexidine gel, and it saved the life of millions. The product is being exported to so many West African and African countries as we're talking, and meets quality specification. Then the other aspect is when the issue of amoxicillin dispersible tablets came on board, which WHO and UN Commission said that they want local manufacturer to produce. Nigerian manufacturer was the first in Africa to start producing, and those products meet the quality specification. As we are talking, we did a survey on quality of medicine recently, which we presented. One was the one we presented in 2015. That was after Professor Dora Akuyinde. So I'm showing you that all the Director General have been in office, and the current Acting Director General have done a lot to make sure that quality of medicines are done. The study we did in 2015 shows that the quality of counterfeit anti-malaria medicine dropped from about 6.4% from the survey we conducted using TrueScan in 2010 to 2015. It has dropped to 3.6% in 2015. Also, with the strengthening process, we collaborated with WHO and Nigerian manufacturers. We see that 4 Nigerian manufacturing companies, Advanced Medical, CH Pharmaceutical, May and Baker, and Swiffer, have attained for GMP, which makes them to compete internationally with any medicine manufacturer all over the world. And today,
would you give us a number of local manufacturers we have in Nigeria? You just mentioned 4 out of the whole. Would you give us an idea? Is it 50, 100, 200 or something?
As we are talking, we have over 120 genuine manufacturers.
And 4 are standing out, is it?
4 in terms of WHO standard GMP status. And that status is set for enable you to compete for international bidding when it comes to supply of essential medicine. So it doesn't mean that the others didn't meet. But what we are saying is that we recognize in the past that some of the Nigerian manufacturers are excluded when it comes to international bidding for supply of essential medicine. So that is why we encourage the Nigerian manufacturers, about 7 of them, to come forward, and they participated. And international auditors from WHO and other stringent regulatory authorities came out and did this, and they meet the standard. As we are talking, more are trying to compete to make sure that they come into this. NAFDAC regularly monitor the GMP status of all these genuine pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. And NAFDAC inspectors are trained, and they participate in inspection conducted by WHO all over the world. So the issue is that the standard of the genuine manufacturing of medicines in Nigeria is equivalent and is equal to what happens all over the world. So what we are really thinking is that in a manufacturing process, systems sometimes fail, but you have a system in place to detect this. And secondly, when issues come, we're supposed to report to the regulatory authority, like the one Dr. Kawo is saying. To the best of my knowledge, that product is not manufactured in Nigeria. But when it does happen, you should report to us. Because when you talk about quality of medicines, there are a lot of factors that contributed. For instance, a medicine can come out from a manufacturing outfit with a good quality specification, but handling, storage, and others, like the survey we've done, of the manufacturing facilities, because of our own nature of proper storage here. So that is why NAFDAC and all manufacturers and all relevant stakeholders were advocating a quality assurance system in such a way that the quality of medicines is maintained as come out of the manufacturer. And the Federal Ministry of Health has launched the National Medicine Quality Assurance Policy, which NAFDAC has come up with the guidelines, and we have thumb up that we are going to implement this to make sure that the quality of medicines as has maintained as is come out from the manufacturer. So there are relevant stakeholders that are important, and this is what we want to take as a joint responsibility. As we're talking, lots of products that are manufactured in Nigeria are being sold in Cote d'Ivoire, they are being sold in Ghana, they are being sold in Sierra Leone, they are being sold in Liberia. And those of us that watched television yesterday, you see the Liberian president saying that the bulk of medicines they use in Liberia comes from Nigeria, and these are of good quality. And it was taxing the various governments to make sure that we should strengthen the national and regional collaboration to make sure that poor quality medicine doesn't come into. From my experience as regulator, we've seen where brands of a particular manufacturer is being faked. And this is what we are strengthening under the current acting.
Who fixed it? Yeah.
That is what we are saying. Those are not genuine manufacturers. So what we are trying to do is that when issues like that come, like the one Dr. Kawo is saying, it should be reported to the regulatory authority. We will conduct an investigation. We have our investigation and enforcement directorate that have relevant intelligence. And if you see recently, we will see where we prosecute some of these people that are involved. So as stakeholders really need to team up. And as stakeholders, we really have to see that we really acknowledge that our manufacturers, under the able Honorable Minister of Health, who is championing the local production of manufacture good quality medicines.
I'll come back to you, especially on the issue of requirements, because you just, like Cliff just said, you mentioned only of these pharmaceuticals out of 120. We'd like to know how many are meeting the requirements, the standard for the production of these drugs. But then that's after I get the views of Dr. Kawu. Dr. Kawu, I'd like you to react to what the pharmacovigilance director is saying here.
You know, one of the beauty of statistic is it makes you feel good about yourself. 7 were presented, 3 were dropped, 4 were taken. So in statistics, that's close to 50%. Now, let's turn the statistic around. If you give drug to about 10 people, and 9 people feel well after that. 1 person, so you keep saying 90%. But for that 1 person, for him, it's 100%. Okay. So in clinical practice, it's a different ballgame entirely. In governance, clinical governance, it's a different ballgame. I deal directly with the patients. I understand what the patients will go through. The regulator is not looking at patients. He's looking at the total package. I'm looking at emotion, and I'm looking at the person. If we look at what has happened in the last few years in Nigeria, especially if you are a person on social media, there are drugs that will come out. You will see that you are in 2011, and the production date will be 2012.
Yeah.
On the card. You give patients drug. In Nigerian hospitals, how many times do we do autopsy for our patients? How do we know the number of patients who died because of our drugs or because of the failure of our systems? How many? We can know. How many times do you think hospitals are bold enough to report the problem in their hospitals? Audit. Honesty. This is what we're talking about. It's when you're directly involved and you lose patients because something went wrong that you feel it. And even if you reported it, who is going to raise it up? Who is going to talk about it? So sometimes when we throw statistics and say 30%, 70%, for 1 person that dies, for 1 person that is maimed, for such person it's 100%.
All right, just a second, but I'd like our viewers to also know that you can be a part of this discussion this morning. We're via Twitter handle at NTAGMN. All right.
If I may come in, you see, when you look at treatment failure, it's a very complex situation that you really look at it. And in Nigeria, the way I look at it is that sometimes there's nothing like rational prescribing, rational dispensing, no proper diagnosis, and sometimes we don't investigate the causes of failure of treatment. And when you say that as a health institution, you don't report to a regulatory authority, you know it doesn't help the situation. Because we're supposed to work together as a team. As a regulator, even if it is 1 serious injury you have from the pharmacovigilance point global system. So the issue, the complex situation we should look at and should address in our system is that we have a system that is possible for poor quality medicine to infiltrate. And we should look at our procurement practices, we should look at our prescribing habit, we should look at our dispensing habit, and we should work together as a team. If you have this system, there's nowhere poor quality medicine can enter a system. We've seen situations where drugs that are procured properly were improperly stored, and this affects failure. So we should be able to have a system, and this is why we're canvassing quality system. The quality assurance system is what guarantees the quality of medicines, and every health practitioner, where you are, is accepted that you are an extension of a regulatory authority. So there should be a need to work together as a team. And as we are talking, NAFDAC has set up pharmacovigilance committees in almost all the tertiary health institutions. In Abuja, we have them. We work with them as a team, and they give us reports of what is happening. Okay. So reporting is a system of detecting what is going wrong, and we'll be able to identify which area we need to strengthen, because you cannot get a perfect system. But you really need to review what you have.
Nothing is done about that.
Yes, you're talking
Let me give you a personal experience, sir. There's a new drug in the market, in Nigerian market. There's a plant. It's called Jegemi. It's a very, very dangerous drug.
Yeah.
It's, you know this local garden egg? It's a local variant of garden egg. We have reported it more than, I mean, it's all over the social media, what the young university students are doing with this particular this thing. Up till today, nobody has ever contacted us. We have not heard anything. So the drug is just in the market.
If I may come to, like
just a minute, Director.
I need to make a
let me come to Dr. Albert Alkali, because well, when you say out of a multitude, there must be Judas. There are those, who are going in the wrong way in order to, meet certain expectations. What are you doing in that direction? How do you fish out such people that give bad name to the pharmacies or local drug manufacturers, as the case may be? How do you get to find them out?
And then you spoke about regulation. Yeah. Why is there a problem with applying these regulations?
Beautiful. In regulation, like you rightly said, we're happy with what pharmacovigilance is doing so far, but we're not happy that the federal task force is not functional. It's moribund. Has been moribund since Akunyili left office. We have state task forces. They're not working. If you look at the whole health system, we have a national drug policy, which has not been implemented. Under the national drug policy, distribution is a key component of it. Now, if we are able to streamline the distribution of drugs in this and close all those open drug markets in the country, all these problems would have been reduced to the barest minimum. The task forces are not working. As for the associations, the Pharmaceutical Society, the Association of Community Pharmacists of Nigeria, we have been advocating for effective drug regulation. We have been advocating that government should put the necessary people. We have no business having an acting DG for up to close to 2 years. We should have a substantive DG by now. We have no business not having a functional, knowing the scale of
Does that affect, the job the person is supposed to do? Because you are in charge.
There are certain decisions that will be taken by a substantive DG. And we also said that over the years, since Akunyili left, we've not have really a push that will meet up our standard.
All right, Dr. Akali, let's get the view of Emma, who is deeply involved. Because when we talk about local manufacturers, we've had the director of pharmacovigilance, giving pass mark to a certain percentage of that. What do you think is the problem in terms of local drug manufacturing? Looking at what is on ground, preponderance of substandard drugs in the market, even in pharmacies.
Thank you very much, sir. When you talk about substandard drugs in the market and local manufacturing, the issue has to be juxtaposed with the importation of these products and how they get into the country. From which source are they coming from? For a local manufacturer, you know your source. You know the regulatory processes that you go through. I'm talking particularly for PMG-MAN members. If you look at the case of, a good instance, the case of the lead poisoning that took place in Zamfara State, PMG-MAN, through our own facility, we were able to produce drugs for treatment of that condition. And we are the company doing that in Nigeria, and that is just an off-the-shelf product for public health use. Zinc sulfate, just like you said, we do it also, we manufacture that. But for substandard products, you don't actually know the source where they are coming from, because they fake the source of the products are fake, and you don't get who is even responsible for it. You try to trace the address in the country of origin, you can't get it. So for us to have a reduction in this, we should have a lot of confidence in our local manufacturers, because this, for the products they manufacture, and for it being used in the institutions throughout the country, I mean throughout the federal institutions, throughout the private institutions, if that made in Nigerian syndrome, made in Nigerian products, just like it's been proposed by the federal government, is taken to this level, I think we have a good percentage of genuine products in the market, and you have a reduction in those substandard products. Pricing also an issue. We are looking at pricing. After going through the different stages and the infrastructural challenges and all the challenges that the local manufacturer has to go through before you get your product into the market or into circulation, you know that they go through a lot of difficulties. Assessing forests, the level of different things they go through. Definitely the pricing of these products will not be as, what will I call it, affordable as what you have imported. And sometimes, because these imported products are not from genuine source, the prices are just peanuts. And we know the different type of incentives also that are given for foreign manufacturers who try to export their products. So it is a colossal of different type of factors that come into play when you are talking about trying to check the level of substandard products. Regulatory is key in this issue, and I think NAFDAC is doing their best. They still have to step up their game on this effect. I also agree with Dr. Adkali when he talked about the task force checking different products in the market to see which ones are fake and getting those culprits arrested, because the life of Nigerians cannot be politicized. I mean, the health cannot be politicized. These are health issues, and we take it very seriously at our own association. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ima Agba. But then I'd like to also, still staying with you, get to also know, we know that pharmaceutical productions or manufacturing of drugs is technology related. It has to do with research. Do you think that as local manufacturers in Nigeria, you're one of them, do you think we have that capacity, the technology in terms of research? That's an area we're also, do we have that?
Yes, in terms of research, if we talk about competency, yes, we have competency, we have the professionalism. But in terms of support, grant to support research, when have we gotten grants last? When have the pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical research council gotten grants last? We can't say about that, because if you don't give grants for researches won't take place. Do we have the capacity? Yes, we have the capacity. We have a lot of technical, well-trained, scientists, academias in pharmaceutical sector that could go into a lot of research. But I think what we are lacking is the finances, and that is where government has to invest in research if we have to see new products coming out from this country. There are so many things we could invest, so many many products we could invest in, particularly for the treatment of tropical diseases that are associated with us in Nigeria. We need to put in effort in that, in reformulating, in strategizing it, so that they can be tailor-made for the use of Nigerians or the black race for which it is. And I can tell you about someone like malaria treatment. There's no reason why we shouldn't have a single shot for malaria treatment in this part of the world. But it involves researches into these processes, into the formulation, into the technology, and grants is important. So going forward, government should set out grants every year to give the pharmaceutical sector for it. We had a proposal that was made some time ago about the Pharmaceutical Intervention Fund. I think this Pharmaceutical Intervention Fund is not just for infrastructure, it's also to pursue this type of goal for us, so that we can have cutting-edge results from our researches, and we need to put that into place. I think it is in the policy pipeline for now, but we are waiting. We are hoping that these things will come to pass.
Thank you very much, Emma, in Lagos. Talking about raising a lot of issues, lack of support, finance support for research, the abundance of substandard drugs in the market. Who is responsible for that? Who brings it in? And who should be able to check them? The regulatory agencies and those empowered to do that. We'll discuss all of that, and also the input of Nigerians via our Twitter handle will come in a moment. We'll take a break now. Okay, we're moving straight to the tweets, Rhoda, because Nigerians are joining this conversation, Director. So let's just go straight to it. We have from Mike Anyapo. Anyapo says, I am at loss that illiterate traders and greenhorns are allowed to trade in drugs in this country. It is only pharmacies that should be allowed to trade in drugs like a Western world. It is to the benefit of all and sundry. And Danny Michael Omakoji tweets, it's quite unfortunate where we find ourselves in this regard after the great loss of Dora Akunyili-led revolution that sanitized the system. And also we have from Sunny Michael Omakoji saying, it's quite unfortunate where we find ourselves in this regard after great late Dora led a revolution that sanitized the system. And it continues there, talking about it's so bad that most of our regulatory agencies are full with people with mental capacity to discharge, but chose to compromise. And Daniel Monachisom tweets, it has become needful to curtail the production of fake drugs. Those involved have seen it as a means of business and income. And of course, Eluyuju Ige says it's rather unfortunate that in a country like Nigeria, human lives are not valued, else strong laws and institutions will be put in place. And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, substandard drug markets flourish in Nigeria because of ineffective regulations and lack of commitment by government of all levels to tackle the problem. Also, we have another tweet from Ronke here saying, place to check and balance drugs produced locally. We need another Dora Akunyili in NAFDAC. Culprits caught should be dealt with seriously. Festus Akin Twitter said Nigeria needs a collective efforts of government, regulatory agencies, pharmaceutical industries and the public to tackle the problem of counterfeit drugs. And Enoa Ayuk says Nigeria drug regulators should focus on efficacy and potency of drugs made in the country, because most of our drugs are disastrous. Well, we have the director of pharmacovigilance of NAFDAC. You had the comments of Nigerians. What is your comment?
Thank you.
Which are the standing comments that you can pick up from all the observations?
Thank you very much. I've had the comments. But before I respond to the comment, let me put certain things straight. The current acting director general have really tried. Why do I say that? Under her, we have sustained the accreditation of our laboratory in Yaba. We've got new certification for our laboratory in Kaduna. We've got new certification for our laboratory in Agulu. In fighting drug counterfeiting, these are the instruments you use to detect counterfeit medicines. And using this, you know that you'll be able to perfect your system and work well. And you've seen, well, we've tested some medicines in our laboratory and take it to international laboratory, the answer is the same. So the lady has really tried as an acting director general. But going forward, the major area we need to strengthen in fighting drug counterfeiters is that all over the world, like in China, if you are involved in drug counterfeiting, it's death by hanging. In India, it's life jail. We've tried to amend the laws in this country severally, but this law has not been passed. And the penalty doesn't serve as deterrent. So you see people willing to go into drug counterfeiting, and when they are taken to court, they pay maybe 50,000 and they are left off the hook. So we really need to strengthen the law to make the punishment more of a deterrent. Talking about fighting counterfeiting, the task force is very essential. And the federal task force, which is spearheaded by Director of Enforcement and Investigation, is working very well. But the state task forces need to be reactivated and motivated to make sure that we work collectively, because you know Nigeria is a very large country. And if you're able to do this effectively, we'll be able to contain the excesses. But another thing that is a major issue in Nigeria, manufacturers in Nigeria, when you look at counterfeiting, they don't do counterfeit products. They manufacture products in line with international standard.
Okay.
But some of the influx of counterfeit medicine come through
we'll go to that area.
unmanned borders.
We'll go to that area because it's an area that a lot of questions are being raised. Yeah. How come we have influx of these drugs and there are no checks, even when they come through our borders? Well, this is Good Morning Nigeria. If you just joined us, our focus is on quality of locally manufactured drugs in Nigeria. And I will be back in a moment after this break.
Kidney and liver issues are on the rise. Why?
This is monstrous. It's even more monstrous.
Charlatans peddle drugs on the streets as if it is pure water. Why?
I was not new.
Enterprise is for money, not assured and quality service. Why?
My dear sweet professor, am I trying to do you so?
Oh, yes.
Episode 10, Season 3 of your rib-cracking comedy. Professor John Bull takes a swipe at the scourge of substandard goods in our society.
Fake suppliers of products must be brought to justice before they create a calamitous atrocity in our community.
Keep a date with us and laugh like never before.
Electric bomb!
Showing at 8:30 p.m. every Tuesday and Friday on NTA Network International and Star Times.
Over and out.
Brought to you by Glow.
Welcome to the new speed of life.
So what's up, sweetheart? You really look like you're up to something.
I have a secret.
Okay.
I'll be going to Europe next week.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Like you have your visa, your passport, your plane ticket?
No, not that way. Some men are helping us. We pay them, they take us through the desert, and then we cross the sea into Europe.
The desert, the sea. Isn't that the route where many have died?
Yes, it is indeed a very dangerous journey. In 2016 alone, 4,900 people died while crossing the Mediterranean Sea to enter Europe. Many were Nigerians. For the very few who survived the journey, they are forced into prostitution or other crimes just to survive. Eventually, they will be arrested and deported to Nigeria. Don't be a victim. Don't go this way.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
NTA Television College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, has maintained her reputation of putting together courses that are highly relevant to manpower needs of the broadcast industry. The college has put together 3 core courses for 4 weeks on computer networking for television for the engineers in the broadcast industry. Date 17th April to 12th May 2017. Registration fee 80,000 Naira with accommodation. Also, a 4 weeks course on English grammar and pronunciation for broadcasters, presenters, scriptwriters, news editors, journalists, and master compares. Date 22nd May to 16th June 2017. Registration fee 80,000 Naira with accommodation. TV College also has a 4 weeks course on specialized reporting to cater for those that want to learn the skills of reporting from judiciary, crime, conflict zones, environment, business, natural disasters, politics, and health. The course will teach you the ways to write and handle stories with peculiar situations. Registration fee 80,000 Naira with accommodation. Date 19th June to 14th July 2017. Venue of all courses will take place at NTA Television College, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, contact us on 0806 980 9807 0703 660 7155 or email us at ntacollege@gmail.com. NTA Television College, Jos, training you to be the best you can be.
Hello there, you're welcome back. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA, and of course our guests, they're still here in the studio. And this morning we're looking at the quality of locally manufactured drugs. I'd like to get back to Dr. Alkali. The Director of Pharmacovigilance here is Ibrahim Ali, is also saying that the regulatory framework is there. But earlier you said that that's an area that, if checked properly, of course, we wouldn't see what we're seeing right now. But I'd like you to take this along with it. The country has said that it wants to meet a certain level of percentage, 70%, production of drugs between, a certain time. Isn't this also accounting, for the fact that we have local, that is substandard drugs? And also, if you look at it, Dr. Kawu said something here. Even if we're not having fake drugs, these are drugs manufactured, they are genuine. But then the quality, just as he said, the quality is quite low. You get a product that is from another country. It's not substandard. It's not fake. The drug now is not fake. Take painkillers, for example. You take a paracetamol produced here. You take a paracetamol produced, outside. When I say outside the country, I'm talking of Pakistan or India, or I'm talking of UK or Germany. The quality, the way they work, seem to differ. Well, what is responsible for this?
Well, thank you very much for a very good question. Now, if we talk of regulatory framework, the various regulatory institutions must be strengthened. They must be given targets and they must attain these targets. We're talking about local production. Now, most of our local manufacturers are not even being patronized by government.
Okay.
Even when they are patronized, they are not being paid. They have been owed for so long. And apart from that, if you look at the power situations we have in the country, the local manufacturers are really struggling to meet up with production because they spend a lot on diesel and what have you. Now, there are no grants, like Iman has said, for researches. We have a research institution that is not being supported. We have a National Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Production here in Idu, in Abuja, which is underfunded. It's just not doing anything. So government must take drug quite seriously. I think our forefathers were very wise in putting drugs on the exclusive list to be handled only by the federal government. And because of that importance, the necessary agencies that are responsible for the checking of all these drugs, from importation to the final consumer, that is the retail outlet, because in the pharmaceutical value chain, we have manufacturing, whether manufacturing of active ingredients or manufacturing of the drug itself, to distribution that deals with wholesaling, and then to the retailing that deals directly with the patient, interface with the patient, who dispense the drugs. Various states, in various states, we have lots of illegal premises. We have lots of premises that are selling beyond their scope. We have these patent medicine stores that people just go in there. They are supposed to sell only drugs that are within, that is the OTC drug, that the patient can read what is on the label and be able to take caution. But they dispense, they sell antibiotics, they sell whatever. It's because of regulatory failure.
That at the state level especially, and that's where local governments, people have direct contact with these drugs, that it seemed the system there seemed to have collapsed.
The
so
system
it's not
has
working.
failed because the federal level is not, there's no pull. There's no effective supervision. There's no effective implementation of the various policies that are needed to ensure that we have a safe society. Clean up the drug distribution chain. Let's have an intervention fund from federal government on the pharmaceutical value chain so that the whole structures can be streamlined. If we implement the national drug policy, things will work. Because the national drug policies looked at the distribution, manufacturing, distribution, up to the retail end. And it also looked at the personnel that needs to be employed to meet up all these, personnel requirements.
Okay. Well, there is a disconnect here because of monitoring local manufacturers, essentially at the state level. You also pointed out earlier that even at the federal level, there appears to be a lot of lull in trying to checkmate the activities of these manufacturers and those who import drugs. Let me get to Dr. Kawu, because we're talking about what obtains in other climes. In the United States, we have the Office of the Pharmaceutical Quality that ensures consistency, safety, and quality of drugs. And of course, NAFDAC should present that for us. Okay, where is the disconnect in trying to ensure that we have standard drugs in Nigeria? Because we see influx of locally or imported drugs that are fake, ordinarily, from the onset.
One of the way you look at it is the end users, mostly the hospitals in Nigeria, where these drugs are given to patients, do we have labs there that can ascertain that this drug they have in their custody are good drugs? No. Most of the pharmacists in the hospitals just dispense drug. They don't really function as pharmacists. So they're as good as people who sell drug on the road. That's one part. The second part is this. We have a culture where everything has to be hidden, you know, as if, you know, you don't have, doctors prescribe drug for patients, you know, everybody just write drug. You're so much in a hurry. People don't even take the pain to explain to the patients, these are the problems you're going to, if you have this problem, you may likely have that problem. This is, if you have these, present like this. Information.
And sometimes they remove the label for the patient not to know.
That's in a private practice. They give drugs so that the patient can come back again in private practice. And then we look at it. Majority of the patients you're going to see, they don't really go to a lot of government hospitals. If you go to the local environment, I'm from, my state practically has a health system that is not, it is bridged by private hospitals. And then the private hospitals are shrouded in mystery. You don't even know what they do there. There's nobody regulating them. Everybody is down their own. Nurses own a hospital, lab tech, they own a hospital. Everybody owns a hospital. But then who is regulating who? So in this type of confusion, everything goes. But once you have a country where things are properly done, where people who regulate you, where people who cross-check everything, then things can be done properly. I train in overseas. I train in hospitals where to give medication, you must sign, you must stamp, you have a code number. So this has to be checked over and over. People have phones, they call you, doctor, are you the person that gives this drug? In most of the hospitals in Nigeria, people just, they can't get to the government hospital, they walk across the road and buy.
Okay, I think Director NAFDAC, you need to come in here because we're talking about authenticating the kind of drugs you dispense. And if in our pharmacies, even in the government hospitals and private hospitals, we don't have a system or a technology to satisfy that this drug is genuine or this one is not genuine, just like we had those numbers you can type in to confirm. You know, what do you have to say here?
Thank you very much. I think the whole system of healthcare is a responsibility that cut across various health professionals. And if you have to look at it, there is responsibility attached to every health professional. What is important is that we have to strengthen our collaboration. For instance, NAFDAC tried to initiate a system whereby we will come forward and say, let's come up with how we identify a genuine prescription. And we drive you come to a point you couldn't go forward. Because when you go to advanced countries, a prescription is just like a mint. It's printed a medical personnel, and you go and replenish, and your telephone number, everything is there. So you can say, this is the genuine prescription. But in Nigeria today, we don't have what is regarded as anybody can prescribe. Then when it comes to dispensing, anybody can dispense. So if you really have to get our acts right, the first thing is, which one is the genuine prescription? We should put a system in place to that. So all relevant...
Whose responsibility is that?
That is the professional responsibility of the body responsible for training of medical doctors. And for dispensing is the responsibility of the Pharmacist Council of Nigeria. We have to work with these people to sanitize the system. And if you are able to do that, there are certain medicines that you are not supposed to dispense until the person is thoroughly assessed, proper diagnosis, proper prescription, and that is what we call rational prescription. And then it goes to the person who is going to dispense, rational dispensing. And there should be a consultation between the person, that is the pharmacist who is dispensing, and the physician. So in the first instance, when you got a prescription that does not address that diagnosis, you use the medicine, you're going to get a failure. And you cannot blame the quality of medicine for that. So we really have to work hard. The second thing is the influx of medicines that are of poor quality.
Yes,
now,
exactly
NAFDAC on their own try to make sure that we liaise with government, and we designated some airport and seaport that medicine is supposed to come through. But as we are talking, we have some unscrupulous, importers that go outside that, take their products to neighboring ports and start bringing it through land borders and all those things. Now, the issue is that NAFDAC detect this thing, but it takes us a long process before we're able to get. And while that is going on, you know that some people are consuming it. This is of great concern to NAFDAC.
I thought you were supposed to, before you could qualify to import any drugs, you must have a pharmacy's license.
These people we're talking to doesn't go through qualification because they are not genuine people. Genuine person, you have the relevant paper, you come in through the designated post. But the unscrupulous people that feed fat on this because the penalty is low, don't care about how the product is stored. Those of you that go to places like Niger, you see how they will try to have a collaboration under WHO platform with people in Niger so that we have a joint team and all those things. We'll form our own body, but that has not been formed. And when you're operating, you cannot go outside the territory of another person without their permission. So as we're talking, the necessary thing is that genuine people who are into drug manufacturing, into drug importation, they try to comply. But some of these people that don't go this, you know, medicine is a peculiar commodity that needs to be properly sold. We did something recently on an injectable, and we discovered that high percentage of the injectable are bad. So we are discussing with people, importers, because the product is not manufactured in Nigeria. So the only way we can address it is that every stakeholder relevant to the use of medicine is supposed to take responsibility. As we are talking, in a health commodity, in a health system, you're supposed to have a system for buying your medicines. And one of those things is that the person supplying you should be either a manufacturer, if you're a large volume user, or it should be an importer. As he's presenting the product to you, he gives you with the certificate of analysis, tell you the quality of this medicine. That is your starting point. And if you have a capacity to store a product more than 6 or 1 year, you should have a system for testing. If you don't have, come to NAFDAC. I have this. We have a laboratory that can do the test for you. But in a situation where you keep the medicine in uncomfortable conditions, no refrigeration, the one that's supposed to be stored at 2 degrees to 8 degrees centigrade is stored at room temperature. You don't expect it. But the bottom line is that we should have a basis where we promote rational use of medicine. And secondly, we should support the current Honorable Minister of Health, local manufacture, because issue of medicine is a national security issue. And if you cannot produce the medicine you are using in your country, you don't have any security. So the issue about quality assured medicine is that those facilities that are producing in Nigeria, we can go there and monitor them today without them knowing. We don't need visa. So we're sure and we'll control some of these things. Then the only thing is that also, if you, those of you that are very alive, recently in Delta State, we're able to get somebody, he doesn't have manufacturing facility, he was faking an anti-malaria, we're able to pick him up, and he was prosecuted 5 years without option of a fine. So these are some of the things that we really have to work together. We should avoid shifting blame on this, Then the other thing we really need to do, if we really have to get out of the situation, is that the illegal drug markets, we really have to get away with it. Because these are the channel where politics...
You made very valid points there. I'm sure other contributors will make a contribution in the course of this conversation. But Nigerians are joining us. It's an exciting discussion, and they're making their input via the NTA GMN Twitter handle. Rhoda, I'm sure we'll have some contributions there.
All right, we have a tweet here from James Oluwatosin. He says, as NAFDAC has its organs in all states, let them try and have at least one in every local government to detect fake drugs on time. And okay, it continues here. It says that this will drastically reduce fake drugs because it's at the local level and we see and know ourselves.
And of course, Festus Akimboyewa says physicians and pharmacists who knowingly put the health of Nigerians at risk by buying substandard drugs because of profit should be punished. And
he also tweets again, says, because substandard drugs are fatal, Nigeria must mobilize resources to counter the supply and threat of substandard drugs. And
Chris Simon says, nothing wrong with the locally produced drugs. The problem is we have many quacks in the system nowadays. And that's exactly the point being made here.
All right, those are the tweets that we have right now. We still have got some time. You can still join us in the discussion. You can tweet at us at NTA GMN. But then let's get to Lagos, where we have Ima Egba, MD and CEO of Divine Essentials. Of course, you're a local manufacturer. Ima Egba, it seems to me like our local manufacturing industry has not really grown, because as we're talking here, we keep saying that the local ones, that is the ones who are producing, when Dr. Kawu was saying, oh, this drug, we're saying, no, that's not produced in Nigeria. So it seems to me like we've just been producing analgesics, malaria medicine. We still import the high-value drugs. And then we're also getting to discover that even the analgesics, the malaria medicines, the materials, the raw materials for producing them, we still import them. Why is this so?
Thank you very much, Ruda. Let me start with the capacity of the local manufacturers. As a local manufacturer, we have grown a lot. Issues and challenges of local manufacturers has to do with patronage from the government, patronage from the private sector. And I want to use this medium to appeal to Nigerians. If you are using a product and that product is, you find that there's an alternative made in Nigeria, please patronize local manufacturers, because you are patronizing a source that you know and the qualities are genuine. Because if you don't patronize local manufacturers, the capacity will not be enlarged. Right now we have a lot of capacity underutilized in our system. We produce antihypertensives, we produce the anti-diabetics, we produce ARVs, we produce antibiotics, we produce a lot of other products in this country. When you talk about the product that Dr. Kawu is talking about, which is some of the anesthetic products used in for surgery, these are low-volume products, and these are not products that are used commonly. These are specialized products. And for this kind of products, you need to have a specialized facility for their production. And that is what is happening right now. The infrastructure capacity in that aspect has not been fully developed in this country, because the one that we have capacity for, which I believe over 70% of our products right now can be produced in Nigeria. The lack is that patronage, and you need to support the system. You see, when we started about this agro issue of rice made in Nigeria, today we have a lot of changes. When we talked about juice being repackaged in Nigeria, today we have a lot of changes taking place. And so it is with the pharmaceutical industry. If you don't give them the support, you don't patronize them, this kind of dwarf situation will continue. Now let's go back to the active pharmaceutical ingredients, which are the APIs that are used for manufacturing pharmaceutical products. We have the raw materials in Nigeria, that is the hydrocarbons that are supposed to come out as precursors from the petroleum industries, which will have to be re-synthesized to give you these APIs that are used. What do you have? We are not producing refined products here. So how do we get these precursors that we can use to reformulate? And even if you have that, where are the infrastructures? So these are place, they have interplays of issues that have to be put in place for this aspect, which is a very big for the estate owner, for countries like China, countries like India, who have been able to combine the production of API with finished products. That means they are able to convert it. And these are not difficult technologies that we can put together, but we need these areas to be functioning before we can bring it together. So that is it. We need to work together, believe in our pharmaceutical industry, and I assure you that we take it to the next level. Nigerians are, let's take a product that is for lead poisoning, for example, that we did. Let's take the ARVs. 20 years down the line, we weren't doing them, but now we are doing them. Because why? the federal government decided that, look, they wanted to support, they wanted to patronize local manufacturer for the first time. And they did it, and they got some good results. And even the US FDA lab was able to stamp the laboratory quality analysis from NAFDAC, stamped it on our own product that it was okay. And that is what we need in this country. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe in our professionals. We need to believe in our country. And I believe we take the quality of drug in this country to the next level. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ima Agba. We have lots of tweets coming in right now, but just before we take them, I'd like Dr. Kau to respond to what Ima Agba is saying, that I just said now that it seems like we still seem to be having analgesics and not high volume. He's saying that those ones you're saying are low volume drugs.
No, I don't really support that idea. Every state in Nigeria, every local government, where patients are being operated daily. So we're talking about 10 years ago, the number of patients we operate daily in Nigeria is not the same volume we operate today. But I think where the disconnect is we have university system that is not contributing to the manufacturing system in this country.
Okay.
I mean, there's so much papers in the university system, but then it's not reflecting in the capacity of our industries.
Sure.
You have pharmacists who are writing papers on very sophisticated equipment, some drugs, but you are not producing the same drug in your country. Sometimes I get confused when you read a lot of papers from Nigeria, and then you ask yourself, where are the industries to produce these drugs that these people are talking about? Okay. I think the problem is we have not been able to put together programs where what we talk about is what we do.
All right, just a minute, because we have other Nigerians. We don't have time. We don't have much time, so we really need to move forward. We're just talking about having the right program and taking practical steps to realize those programs. That's what is being talked about. We have other Nigerians joining us via the tweet, and we have Daniel Monachimso. Monachimso is saying the Drug Enforcement Agency should set up competent moles who would go into the secrecy of these hoodlums in order to curb them. That's exactly what is being talked about there.
Abdul Kudos Wakili tweets, someone like Dr. Kau is needed in our pharmaceutical industry to help us improve our drug production.
And Chris Simon is saying regulatory agencies like NAFDAC should check these pharmaceutical industries well. Those ones that don't meet the standard should be wiped out.
And the engineer Abdullahi tweets that the regulatory body has no capacity in terms of the latest technology and adequate personnel to check the abundance of fake drugs.
And Abdul Kudus Wukeli says Dr. Kau shouldn't be blamed for not patronizing made in Nigeria drugs after such drugs has killed his patients.
And Ode Samuel tweets, the major problem we're having in local manufacturing is the regulatory management. Are they revenue driving, not sensitizing Nigerians?
And Shaibu Ruben says, NTA GMN, hope you will not forget to talk on the drug the doctor mentioned. Jegemi. Jegemi?
Yeah. Jegemi.
Okay, Jegemi. I'm not sure of any spelling anywhere.
And Ronku Ele Yinje tweets, I want to see more proactiveness on clamping down on fake drugs and chemists with little or no knowledge dispensing drugs to people.
And Sunday Gideon says NAFDAC needs to do more on self-sufficiency and professionalism. 9 million people. NAFDAC is needed. And
Ndubisi Ubaka tweets, another way is for governments to strictly regulate drug manufacturers.
And also continuing, it says, NTA GMN, the bigger problem is that majority of drugs sold here are low quality drugs from China. Some of them with 0% active ingredient.
Abdul Kudus Wakili tweets, in as much as we want to encourage local manufacturers, standards must be in place to encourage users. Penalties must be entrenched.
So let's go to Akali now. You were itching to make an input because we are going on a home drive now on the way forward. We're talking about low quality drugs being imported into this country. What do we need to do going forward?
Yeah, going forward, I would like to talk about the injectables first.
Yes.
Now, we need the government at all levels to patronize our local manufacturers. Now, when we patronize our local manufacturers, their capacity utilization will improve. They will be doing well because it's expensive manufacturing injectables. That's why they are starting with the one they have the financial muscle to be able to handle.
Okay.
So patronage is very important. Grants and intervention funds for the pharmaceutical industry. This is an industry that has the potentials to employ so much Nigerians. As of 2010, we were talking about 148 billion naira worth of industry. That's 1.3 billion dollars worth of industry. Now, if government had have a grant or intervention fund for this industry, the fund, the employment that this will generate will be so much.
Okay,
now, talking about the importation of fake and substandard medicines, which we just need to streamline the drug distribution channel. It's not everybody that goes to import. In fact, the faking, based on history, started is it about 68, 68, when Crown agents, then the sole importer of drugs, disengaged, and now we have multiple people coming in and importing drugs. It worsened in the 88s when everybody came in. So we need to make sure we hold our regulatory agencies accountable. We as professionals, we've been throwing advocacies. We've been encouraging people to patronize registered pharmacies with the Green Cross emblem. So Nigerians must go to pharmacies that are registered and request to see a
Dr. Kali, we'll just have to stop you there. Let's have Dr. Kawu on a home stretch. What is the way forward? Just.
I think the way forward is education.
In 1 second.
Education. I live in a university community. The young people in our university are gradually destroying themselves with tramadol, with jegemi, and the women in our communities are constantly abused by their husbands, and they seek solace in trauma. So until we begin to have regulatory body who are looking at how these drugs, we have Coughlin, Totolin, that university students mix with Lacasera drink, and they go around drinking all these things. These are some of the issues we have to begin to look at.
All right, pharmacist Ibrahim Ali, your closing thoughts here, very, very, very briefly. We're out of time.
Thank you. To start with the issue of Gegemu. Gegemu is a plant, it's a concoction, and NAFDAC has investigated that in Ekiti State and in Odo State. And what is important in that one is that you have to involve the whole community, because it's not a preparation per se that you say it's a medicine, but we are handling that. Then the aspect of production. There are certain medicine that use simple technology, there are some who use sophisticated technology.
Okay, you made a point there, because you're on top of it, I guess, and that NAFDAC will be on top of it to ensure that we enhance locally manufactured drugs, and of course ensure that we don't have fake drugs coming in.
And with respect to deploying technology.
No, it's okay now.
All right,
we'll create another forum for you to really talk about that.
All right, on that note, we want to say a very big thank you to all of our guests. We'd like to start from our Lagos Network Center, where we have joined, who's been speaking with us, Ima Agba. He's the MD CEO, Divine Essentials Formulation. Thank you very much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. And would also love to thank Dr. Albert Alkali, who is a consultant pharmacist, quality control and drug production in Nigeria. Dr. Albert, thank you for your insight on Good Morning Nigeria today. And also a very big thank you to Dr. Kawu Abdul Kadri, Spine Center, Gwagwalada. Of course, indeed, thank you so much for your insights this morning.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you. And the last but not the least, the Director Pharmacovigilance of NAFDAC, Ibrahim Ali. We thank you so much for your perspective today.
It's a pleasure being here.
And we're still on Good Morning Nigeria, talking about what is going on in the world of sports. Let's now get to our sports desk.